All right, so it is 4 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. 4 o'clock, which is a good thing. We'll do roll call. Heather?
Present.
Just so you know, the microphone is muted for this meeting. It was clear for the first few seconds as you started, and now the microphone is muted.
That's all.
Okay,
Okay.
so good, thank you. I had now a chance to think about what I'm gonna say. So at the last meeting, we discussed the construction of the parking lot at TD Marshall. There was a concern raised about the removal of trees.
Yes.
And we talked about putting it on the next meeting, and I suggest we consider putting it on this meeting.
It is under report, so we were gonna give a report. So I guess it is on the agenda, just the action is not on the agenda.
Thank you.
So we can update you, because there has been some follow-up meetings, so. Anything else? There's a motion and a second. All in favor of adopting, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, at this point, all right, public comment. There's no one here.
Yeah, there is someone with their hand raised.
Right, but I was gonna say, no one is here in the meeting,
Oh.
but is there anyone
Yeah.
online that would like 5 minutes of public comment?
Rob, you want to go ahead with your public comment? Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Can you hear okay?
Rob Pattinson, Scio Township resident, thank you. So reading today's agenda, I find it a bit confusing that,
Oh, we can't hear you, Rob.
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
That's weird. Okay. I find the agenda for today's meeting confusing because as I understood it, the $750,000 allocated to taking the pathway over the I-94 bridge was removed from the bridge and applied towards the other end of the pathway to get across the railroad and across the river. And now there's 3 different options, 300,000 plus, 600,000 plus, and 800,000 plus from OHM for widening the sidewalk and taking it over the bridge. I don't understand where the money is going to come from for that because it's already been moved from the bridge towards the Huron River crossing. So perhaps you guys can explain that as the meeting goes on. Thank you.
Rob.
Anyone else?
No.
So I'll close public comment at the beginning. Next is reports. Also, I think everyone knows Anna is in California. So we're Reed and I will be winging this, I can give you updates on these projects as far as Van Curler, DD Marshall, Sloan, and interns. And we can also, obviously later in the meeting, we're talking about Z Road projects and connecting communities. So first Van Curler, last meeting, we did approve for the contractor that did go to the board in some meeting ago. Anyways, they are approved, they've gotten all their permits, so that should get started later this fall. I mean, it could be sometime this month, they get started. So that is a parking lot off of Joy Road. Yeah, off of Joy Road, that they'll put in, and that should get done this fall. So I think, for the most part, relatively straightforward. So we have a contractor and that will get done, later this fall. The other item, first, any questions on that before I move on?
No, it's great though.
Yeah.
It's good to hear the progress moving forward on that.
Also, the interns this summer were supposed to be putting in a path from the parking lot down to Huron River Drive. That was one of their projects, but I really don't know if they got to it or
I
not.
don't believe so.
Okay.
I've been to Van Curler a couple times over the summer, and no one has put in a path, and I think I talked to the interns about that. I think talked about Van Curler, and they did not say they had put in a path, so I don't think they have.
Yeah, I think the good thing is we have a list of, 20 items. When you put that list out, you realize we're not gonna get to all 20 items. I don't know how many they got to, but that's what I'd heard, that they didn't get the path. But at least we'll get the parking lot put in.
Well, I think there's here till the end of September, if I'm not sure exactly how long, but I'm not sure how to reach them. So I was thinking about coming in during the day or leaving a note somewhere and seeing if I can connect.
Wrap it up. Was Brian and Sam doing, I don't know. I guess we'll get more information when Anna returns.
I have a comment on Van Curler.
Sure, go ahead.
So several weeks ago, I walked through Van Curler and gave a report to Anna about my observations. And I'll just share those in less than a minute, I think. So off of Huron River Drive, there's a former driveway. There was some sort of a farm or residence there. I don't know the history, but there's a driveway off of Huron River Drive with a gate, and it's rough. It's not passable by an automobile. It's not really passable by a bicycle right now. It is passable by foot. With a small amount of investment, it could be made passable by foot, and I think by bicycle. My idea was there's this former development along the south part of the property near Huron River Drive, near where the driveway comes in. There's actually some clearings where there was apparently a driveway and a road and some sort of buildings, which I think have been removed. I thought that area could be made amenable or usable by cyclists and pedestrians pretty cheaply, because it would just mean maybe a few hours with a chainsaw, removing some trees that are over the pathways and doing a little bit of clearing, bushwhacking sort of thing, would make that accessible to pedestrians and cyclists. And then I gave some comments to Anna about possible route through the park, through the preserve, from the south end up to the driveway, or I'm sorry, to the north parking lot that is going to be constructed. Right now, the parking lot won't really make a lot of sense. It'll be a place to park, but it won't really lead you into the preserve, and it is not anything useful. We need to connect that. I think we need to connect that to Huron River Drive with some sort of a path. And there's a lot of beautiful options. That's all I have to say.
No, I've been out there at the south end too, and I agree 100%. Just some minor clearing, because there was a driveway, and trees have fallen across that driveway, now blocked it, and there's a gate. And ideally, OHM, the consultant, is designing the connection to Dexter Huron, which is the border, and Dexter Huron will be a gravel trail that will come across Huron River Drive, probably about where that driveway is. But then, yeah, then we need to get, improve that driveway, not really do much improvement on the driveway,
Exactly.
really just remove the fallen trees and branches and stuff. And then from that point, figure out a route that goes all the way back to the parking lot. Because yeah, we're gonna build a parking lot for like you go from there.
Right.
My
My thought to be budget conscious is that don't worry about motor vehicle accessibility on the south side. Right now, make it accessible for pedestrians and cyclists and connect it to Dexter Huron
Right.
Park.
Makes a lot of sense, and I guess, yeah. It's important. I mean, there was money budgeted for this reserve improvement, and the bids did come in less, so there should be some money left over, who, we would have needed to hire someone to brush a trail from here to there. Once the trail alignment has been picked, so that's something you could still get done. Obviously, you can brush a trail anytime, fall, winter, whatever. So it's like
Through parts of the park, all that is really required is blazing a trail, marking it.
Mhm.
And then there's a couple of potential footbridges.
Mhm.
There's some muddy areas, some low lying areas, and then some sort of a trail through the meadow. The meadow near the north end is, the day I was there, it was early in the morning, it was with heavy dew, I was just soaked up to my waist. And then from the meadow north to Joy Road is just, it's awful. It's like the Civil War battle of the wilderness. It's just all overgrown and
a
there's
lot
lots
of bases and stuff.
lots of thorns and it's a lot of dead wood. It's really nasty. If something needs to be done with that, I don't know how to do that.
Okay. Well, we can have, give us an update next time. So, then the next one is Dee Marshall. That was the one we ended up postponing. We were looking to, accept bids from the name of the contractor, the name slips me right now. We did go out and meet with the property owner.
Neighbor?
Yeah,
That orchard.
yeah, Rita, what's
Michael.
Living.
Mike
Levine,
Levine. So he owns a large parcel that's not right next door. His parents own the parcel right next door. But he gave us a good hour and a half tour of all the stuff. So after we met with him, there's still a lot of things, a lot of unknowns. So I think the thought was, we need to get more of this information. We need to, if we're gonna cut down, before we start, making all these changes, because I think it was sort of, even Anna was like, okay, she was familiar with the park, but didn't really have the history. Sort of just given to her, it's like, hey, we're gonna build this parking lot here, and let's make sense. So I think we're decided, let's take a step back, get educated about what this park, what it envisions. Because there's also talk about, it's gonna tie into Sloan, but Sloan is, moving a lot slower. And so it's more complicated than just this. So that's why let's take a step back before we cut down large number of trees, with
And
20.
his concern was signage, to keep people from wandering off on his pathways where he walks his dogs. So signage, making it kind of clear where we don't want people to go. And fair.
Mhm.
I think that felt like, to me, like the brunt of the
Right, because
conversation.
he owns quite a few acres and he has trails,
Mhm.
but they're his trails. He doesn't want people walking on his trails. And we don't really have defined where our trails are going to be, or we don't even have trails there, so to put a parking lot in, because we're like, okay, sure, put a parking lot in, people are just gonna start wandering, and so, we need to figure it out.
Was he concerned about the trees too?
Well, the trees are on his parents' property, and he's sort of, he is concerned, but they're not his trees. So it's not, we don't have to get permission from him, but his parents own that parcel.
The trees are near his parents' parcel. I think the trees are on the parcel that's owned by township.
No, we have to cut down trees west of our parcel too, which would be on.
Or maybe on the right of way,
Yeah, they're in the right of way, but on
but
their,
adjoining their parcel.
yeah. So
So I
that's
don't think
where,
we'd be cutting down trees on someone else's property.
right, but they're in the road right of way, but yeah, not outside the road right of way, but there are trees that, so we need to. So that's what I think, after meeting with him and finding out, there's still a fair amount of questions. And it's not like people are knocking on doors like, when are you gonna open Marshall up? When are you gonna open Marshall up? So let's make an informed decision before we just,
Mhm.
put in this parking lot. And then even if we get the parking lot in, there's no real trails there yet anyways. So then people are gonna start potentially trespassing or whatever. So let's think this thing out. And so that's what I think this decision was. That's why it hasn't really come back as an agenda item. I'm not sure exactly how long we have
act on those bids. Usually it's like 90 days, so we do, maybe the next meeting, but I'm thinking probably.
If you wanna do it, we can just rebid it, once we figure out what we're gonna do, or if we're gonna do.
Weren't we also, wasn't there a question about not putting the parking lot where it was initially considered, but to move it slightly west or maybe off to the side somewhere? Wasn't that perhaps part of the conversation we were gonna have?
That feels like a pretty old conversation, I think.
Okay,
I think we just have to go back and.
I think it was talking about, could we move the driveway?
oh,
And then you'd have to sign off from the neighbors.
yeah,
But when we went out there, if you move the driveway to the west, you cut down less trees on our property, but probably cut down more trees on their
oh, really?
property.
Okay,
So it's not like, if you moved it here, it's like, oh, wow, no trees, but it seems like if you've been on Marshall Road, there's trees, it does this. So that wasn't gonna really,
and then I thought there was one other thing, and forgive me, this probably is another old conversation, but just the idea then that not that we would decide, okay, well, then there's just no parking lot for cars, but we make access for bikes and things like that. That would be a much smaller footprint, less invasive, but do they still have, does the road commission still have the line of sight rules for if you're gonna officially have sort of something that's a bike place versus a car place to get in and out?
good question.
Okay,
That is a good question.
I'm not sure we've ever built a bike. I mean, really just it'd be an access, so probably not.
okay,
But really, do people ask that question? But
yeah, well, I guess I'm good at that.
No, it's good, yeah.
One other thing about GD Marshall, there is the potential for access from the other side of the property, but that is a cross property that we don't own right now. So I had mentioned that to Anna, and she said, check into it if you can. So I don't know what the result is, but I think the consultant that works with LPC was going to talk to that property owner. There's some sort of easement arrangement or something or other with two property owners on that east side. So that's, again, another possibility that we can pursue.
So that would be potentially access from Becker Road?
No, I think it's just on the east side of the GD Marshall Preserve. just-
Yeah, further to the east
Yeah.
on Park Road. So there's a lot of moving parts on this thing, and that's why it's like, before we just I think Anna was giving this like, okay, we're gonna build a parking lot here. And she was like, oh, yeah, okay. And now it's like, let's take a step back and say, why are we building a parking lot here? Let's ask the first question, why, is there other locations or, is there a need? Rather than just like, I think that was sort of giving her, it's like, okay, you build a parking lot here without answering the question of why.
So then, sorry, can we, I don't know, is this a subcommittee thing to do for DD Marshall specifically? Like to come up with a checklist or a list of questions and or who can, like you've already talked to property, or well, not the people immediately next to it, but the son of one property down? Oh, that's who you had the conversation with?
That isn't his, it's not connected right to the property, or it is sort of.
The Levines and their parents. Yeah.
Right, and there's one other property owner in there too. Remember there's another property that's not the Levines,
Right.
so.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, can we set up a logistical sort of table of events to figure out east side, west side, neighbors, access? Is the parking lot even a realistic thing because of either the cost or the tree removal? How can we come up with a list of questions and boxes to check to then really be informed so we can make that decision? How would we, what would you suggest? How would we go about that?
I think that is, that's, I guess I think that'd be a task that we have Anna,
Oh, okay.
to do, not that she's gonna get it done tomorrow, but
Well,
over the,
right.
yeah, that is one of those tasks. And she may have to hire someone, some consultant to assist
Okay,
her. I mean, we can ask that over next meeting.
okay.
And yeah,
I
and
think
it's sort of related to the next item, which is Sloan. Because this DD Marshall sort of potentially could tie into Sloan. There's a fair amount of discussions about Sloan. I don't know, Liz, the latest is I think we're not acting on Sloan. As far as, I mean, there was a big push
As far
like,
as what aspect of slum? We're talking
well, having LPC and the township get, try to buy,
oh, the arsenic contaminated?
yeah, the
Oh,
law.
I think that's pretty much down the road,
Okay.
but yeah, it's something that's under discussion. But there is that center section of Sloan, there are two trails that go off to the side, is arsenic contaminated pretty heavily. So it would have to be cleaned up.
No, there was a meeting about that you
Right.
went for a while, Patrick.
Yeah, there was some discussion about that. They're not certain whether it's naturally occurring arsenic or if it's from some kind of industrial waste or something. But John was also there, and I left midway through the meeting because I really wasn't invited to the meeting. And I don't know what the discussion was after I left, if there was any kind of conclusion drawn at that meeting.
It was just, hello folks, sorry, it was an accident on Jackson Road as I was driving out here. There was just discussion about how it fits into our preservation, our goals. There's gonna be 4 parcels kind of when it's done, if it goes through. And that western one was something that the LPC really was interested in, but it has arsenic, either naturally occurring or from industry or from agriculture, maybe farming apples or spraying, so it's there. And how do you put a cap on it and say, stay off it, kids? Or do you excavate it and get it out of there? So we would love to have it someday to kind of link up in the trail. It'd be nice if there were no offense, Roy, but a border-to-border trail within Scio Township that kind of starts out there and kind of courses its way all the way through to the Oak Valley area, that'd be nice. And to go from like a diagonal border-to-border, so to speak, but within Scio Township. And that would play a role in that, as could the Sloan Kingsley across the street. So there's the Sloan kind of to the west, there's the Sloan Kingsley to the east. Am I right on all that, the nomenclature on that, Liz?
Sloan Kingsley is the large parcel.
Yeah, and that is potentially going to be, I say 87 hands, but it's many hands on 87 acres, and then some would potentially be annexed into Dexter, and some would still be open space, but it's not moving along very fast. Dexter, the ball's in Dexter's court, so to speak. They have to react to Dave Lutton's proposal, and do they want to do it? Do they want to ask us to annex it? Do they want to get that going? So there have been some joint meetings, but at some point, they kind of need to decide how they want to formally react to the proposal that they have before them.
The thing about this Sloan arsenic parcel is that we don't need to buy that. It can't be developed. Nobody can use it as is.
Right.
So, he's just sitting on it. He wants to get rid of it. But he's attaching it to all this other.
Right,
project. So
right.
we don't have to really act on that right now. It's down the road, but out there.
Yeah.
May I just make a suggestion too, maybe for our next meeting? I'm more of a visual person. I'm having trouble tracking all of these properties with property lines and trees and right of ways and what sections of the slow plow. So if we could have maps next time or something, so I could look and see where these trails are, that would be helpful. Just a helpful hint for at least myself, more visual.
Yeah, I think
Anna
Anna has a
can do
big
that.
map. We
Yeah.
have a big map we could put up and.
Yep, it's giant.
Yeah,
It's
be
really helpful.
So much more helpful for me at least.
For
I
next
agree.
time. Yeah.
I agree, right, okay.
Yeah, because when Anna put this on, I think she meant Sloan and Sloan Kingsley, because Sloan, like I said, is more the west side of Baker than the east side.
Yeah.
But I agree with John. There's a lot of things, I mean, if this thing gets sorted out in the next 5 years, it'd probably be a miracle. But it does relate, because D.D. Marshall does touch the Sloan Kingsley. So that's where it's sort of like, if there was a trail that you can connect, then it can connect to, this, connect to that, because then it connects to, so potentially, but it's complicated, so. Even a lot more complicated than just D.D. Marshall, because this is multiple players and you get the cities and so on.
Lots of parcels, lots of easements.
Yep, so. The next one is just letting know that, Bria and Sam are extending until October, so that's good. Keep, keep here as long as they can, so that's all good.
Can I ask a quick question about
Sure.
the, in terms of the stewards and the students that are working. I think we touched on it when we were walking with them through that preserve the last time we met, but are we already set for next year's batch of interns, so to speak, or do we have to ask for approval for that again? Because this program with these young folks has just been fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure Anna will put it in her budget.
Okay.
And the township board have approved.
But that's not something we have to make a motion or some kind of
Well, I
suggestion.
think Anna will be putting together a budget and we'll probably review it, the budget.
Oh, okay.
It'll be like a line item within that budget.
Great, great.
So that'd be our opportunity to say,
Okay,
yeah, we
Perfect.
definitely approve.
Yeah.
So I would agree 100% what
Yeah.
you're saying. I mean, it's been
Okay.
super successful. And it's pretty low cost. I don't know
Yeah.
what the number is, but it's, for all of it's stuff we get done from
yeah,
those students.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, It's a
Yeah.
huge win for them and a huge
Okay.
win for us, so I would think, can't imagine why we wouldn't. And we have a full source of revenue to pay for these, so it only makes logical sense to continue that
Okay,
work. Maybe not these students, but other students.
Well, yeah.
If they're available, yes, if not.
sure. Whoever comes along.
Right.
Okay,
The other thing, I guess under reports, I did send an email out yesterday, sorry about the lateness, but we had a, request from a resident in the neighborhood of Scio Church Uplands about potentially connecting, a sidewalk that would connect Uplands and those developments to the city of Ann Arbor, really, Oak Valley. That's been talked about for quite a few years, and the work we're doing, this year, the Uplands part is really potentially phase one. These are potentially phase two. No money's really been identified. I don't think it's really been determined. It could be P3 project, a road project, or some other department. Handouts.
It's like 2019 map, 2019 map from Joe Maynard, the old PPP revenue.
Yeah, we can share that.
I didn't finally print like 7 or 8, so take a look and test it out.
So, I mean, it's a valid request and it's talked about, and it's actually, it's in the, what's our open space plan? Can we see that? Pros plan, I think it's in the pros plan, so it's something that's been, discussed for a while. Obviously, money hasn't been identified, and there hasn't been, but she was just making a request. And I'll see it, moving up to the top, we have a lot of other projects in the works. But the good news is, there is a need, and I think that's what she was identifying. Going from where it stops, the project we're doing now, which stops at Meadowlands driveway, taking that out to, let's see here.
Oak Valley.
Oh, yeah, no, we're taking that out to South Church.
yeah, isn't it intended to connect to South Church?
Yeah, so the one on the bottom, the little drawing on the bottom, we're going down to Meadowlands driveway this year. Coming out to, out Uplands to South Church and down South Church to where there's a new development, which I forget the name of that, Heritage. One up South Church on the north side.
Kensington?
Kensington. That's will be relatively easy, but once you get past that, then you're getting into 5 or 6, 7 homes that are relatively close to the road. So figuring out how we're gonna engineer a path through there, without impacting their front yard too much, it will be a challenge. So, the next phase could be, is doable. There's one house that's close. With the other hand, it's, but beyond there, it's gonna be challenging and expensive, because you probably have to do curb and gutter, sidewalk behind, and the homes are lower.
And there's a lot of culvert, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
there's-
Yeah, you have to put in storm sewer and, and you take a fair amount of these people's front yards, so it's not like.
So what if you put a crosswalk in, like you take Upland Drive where it terminates at Scio Church, and you go across into Lodi, where Abbott's Farm used to be. And then what if you go from east to west on the north side, maybe the south side, the
South
south side of Scio Church, Now that's Lodi, and that would take like applying to something, you know, reaching out to Felicia Braybeck, who's the state rep for Lodi and Pittsfield and Scio in that area. There's also a little triangle, believe it or not, Ann Arbor Township, and then there's Ann Arbor City, stone's throw across the 94. So there's really 5 different jurisdictions that kind of are in that area, although it's mostly Scio with a little Lodi.
Yeah, it's a possibility. It'd just be interesting for South Township to pay for a
No,
sidewalk.
but I'm saying reach out to
State rep.
the state rep.
Mhm.
No, you're right, it would be, but at some point you gotta cross the street. And you
Right.
cross the street, probably it's safer to cross the street down at Oak Valley.
Sure.
Than at a hill across, you know, because you'd have to put a light in.
Is this drawing in the agenda packet?
Rob, I can email it to you. Can I do that?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. And let's try and get this into the agenda packet. Thank you.
All right. Oh, please.
So more to come on that. It was just a email request from a citizen, so.
Is money what's held it up overall, the yearly discussion? Just the funding for it or
And boy,
logistics, or there are other priorities or what? Because it's
Well, we're
pretty
doing the first
critical.
phase, I guess, we're doing the first phases, which is connecting all the internal
Yeah,
subdivision
yeah.
streets. So that's the first phase. You
Okay,
know, will there be money allocated for phase 2? That'll be a township.
okay.
And where does it come from?
Right.
You know, then phase 3 and do study moving into the south side. You're trying to get a grant. I mean, yeah,
So it's phase 3. Is phase 3 the crosswalk and all that you were talking about?
probably.
Okay, all right, so we just haven't gotten there yet, but we're sort of beginning. Okay, got
Is
it.
there a scenario where it makes any sense to do the comparatively inexpensive crosswalk to ease that pressure initially, even before sidewalks?
Well, there's nowhere for the crosswalk to go on the north side. I mean, go to one person's house. Just can't really get there.
But there's a perceived danger there, so there must be people crossing.
I guess that can be looked at, but there's, yeah.
Just
Mhm.
one.
I talked to Will about this a little bit, and it sounded like he was all about putting it on for a project next year, so I think the board would be, at least Will is happy to get this project kind of moving a bit.
But even the project, the easy project within the neighborhood, there's a lot of support for, it's 2 years. So
It's
this
not
one's
done.
complicated, so I can't imagine it happening next year. I don't know. I'm just trying to be realistic, because I just know the simple project took us 2 years. This is complicated, so I can't imagine us doing complicated in 12 months, but.
I don't want to get too greedy, but what about getting on both sides of Scio Church Road? You know, I mean, I'd love to see them on both sides, but I'll take one, but you know, we can coordinate with Lodi. I'd love to see them on both sides, if I have my preference, but.
Right. But where does it come from, the money? I mean, because. A lot of good questions, you know, not a lot of answers. And then also related, it's on the public meeting notice for September 28th, the WISD. That was sent out to the residents that live in those 4 or 5 subdivisions. Couple residents, did you guys get a notice? Yep. Okay. So I think that's, like I said, September 28th at WISD at 5:30.
What's WISD?
Washington Intermediate School District,
Oh.
right there on Wagner Road. It's like
Precinct voting there too.
And the meeting is on what topic? I'm sorry.
on
Phase 1.
phase 1, the one we took, the bids were approved. And they have a
Thank you.
contractor, it'll probably get started in October. That work. So the next one is MAD fund reallocation. This one, if you're not familiar with, Representative Donald Zinski secured 3 grants, 3 or 4 grants for Scio Township. Like 4 grants, actually, right? One was for phase 3 of Zebra Path, which we built, used their money. She also got us money for phase, or it must have been phase 4. Phase 4, sorry. This is in the packet. So there's a map,
We didn't print it out for everybody,
right, but
but
it,
there is a copy there.
so this shows,
Share here.
um, basically, we built phase 4 last year. We used the money. She also received, she granted us money, got money for phase 5, which is from where it left off on Zebra Road, crossing the river, going up through Old Squeebster, which is now Stanley, winding through there and crossing railroad tracks. Then also was phase 6, she secured money, which is improvements over the bridge over I-94. And so the township hired OHM to look at options of crossing I-94 bridge. At least widening the sidewalk, because there's a sidewalk on there now, potentially widening some of the sidewalks approaching there. After OHM did this study, MDOT said no, they would not allow that type of improvement. So, you know, it's always sort of interesting. We have a sidewalk, and to make it wider, which to me seems would be safer, they're citing safety concerns, so you can't make a sidewalks wider and safer. They'd rather keep it this narrow. So I mean, it's sort of like, it's MDOT. I mean, I did the same project on Grove Road in the city of Ypsilanti just 2 years ago. And they signed off on it.
Didn't they say that the bridge couldn't support additional weight of the?
Because it's the barrier is a barrier. But the weird thing is, there's no barrier there now. People walking next to the traffic, which is always sort of interesting. So they built something wasn't to standard then, or the standards have changed now that they need a
Yeah.
barrier.
That's what I wondered. Two different standards just aren't meeting, you know.
Right, or they're electing to, pick and choose.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But so what they're saying is, we really can't spend the money, that Donna got us, Representative Lizinski got us for phase 6. So there's a potential option, we could move it to phase 5, which needs more money to cross the river and do the railroad tracks. In the resolution that Ann and I proposed is, it would allow the township to move the money and use the money on either phase, whatever they need, rather than saying, we're gonna take all the money, 6 and move to 5. The need for 5 needs it all, and we're not gonna do anything with 6, spend it all, because you don't want to leave money left over on phase 6 if you can't spend it. If there's certain things that you want to do on phase 6, it's low hanging fruit, you could do that too. So that's all we're saying.
Roy, I could give the committee the explanation for why they weren't able to put it on the bridge if you would like.
I'd like to hear that.
So
What's in
the end,
it's in the OHM study.
It's in the,
Yeah.
it's available online. It should be attached,
Yeah.
the report.
Yeah, the structural, where the bridge is designed, they can't structurally connect the barrier to the deck. But you could widen the sidewalk. Do it that way, but they don't want to do it
I
that
don't
way.
wanna do that.
So I think, so to me, even if you widen the sidewalk, it would be safer without the barrier, but other people think different.
So, Roy,
They did it in on 94 in here on Street in Ypsilanti, and not only did they widen, they put a sidewalk in, then they widened it, and then they connected the sidewalk to the on-ramp to 94, which, that seems super safe. Let's just have people walk right into merging traffic, like, I don't get it.
The on and off ramps are definitely a point of conflict
For
between
sure.
pedestrians and motorists who are like, gotta downshift and
Right.
get up to speed.
Especially when you're when you're changing, people have driven that same route and merged the same way for years and years, and you're changing it. And if, people that don't, aren't paying attention, or maybe, haven't seen the construction going on, to then all of a sudden have a pedestrian, a stop sign or a stoplight or whatever, and there's pedestrians there. I mean, I guess it's a strange thing to like have to stop before you merge on, when for so many years you were used to just kind of veering off, right?
Why and getting on.
So but really, what do you do? I mean,
Right.
what do you do? What other?
It is an improvement, but yeah, I think the frustration, I think even a lot of the elected officials is, when Federal Highway and MDOT built the freeway system, they didn't worry about pedestrians so basically, when all the freeway bridges went in, they really aren't safe for people to cross, and now, there's people living, because back then, there might not have been people living on the south side, Dipsy. Now there are, there's more people live in Dipsy Township than live in the city. So trying to get across there, Grove Road, Ann Arbor's Lane, State Street, all those really are not pedestrian friendly at all. And then trying to get MDOT to do anything, they're like, oh, it's a locals problem. But who built the bridge? They did, right? We didn't build the bridge and they did, but trying to get them to, it's like, fund improvements, they're like, oh, if you guys want to fund it, go for it, even though they sort of created these, they cut off access to one side or the other freeways ring around Ann Arbor, Plymouth Road. You look at any of the interchanges, good luck trying to cross those things. I mean, since then, Getty's has been, they put a separate bridge in there, but a lot of them, good luck trying to cross, get access into the city. From townships. So I mean, this was an option, but at this point they're saying no. So that's why the resolution would allow the township to move the money where they feel fit.
I have a question for you about that, just from one of the technicalities, like the 10-year SAD, where they said, yeah, we could use 10% for pathways. Well, no, you can't, I understand we're wanting to move the money around, because obviously I'd rather spend it than those that are put it on the project for the bridge, but given the way your proposal breaks out, where it says the the phases 5 and 6 were actually originally granted to be specific project phases, and now we want to change that to be where we use one for another, which I'm all in favor for, but how do we know they're not then gonna reach back in a year or two after we make that change, even though we've allowed ourselves to do it? Does MEDC have a right to come back and oversee what we did and say, no, you can't do that, you gotta give us the money back because you didn't use it the way we granted it?
That has been, we can do this.
Oh, all right,
MED said, yeah,
okay,
that has been verified.
okay,
Is what I've been told, obviously, in the township in terms of,
all right,
this resolution is just trying to give the township more flexibility.
totally get it. I'm all on board with that. It's just
Yeah,
us doing that for ourselves isn't necessarily the same as MEDC going, yeah, that's okay.
Right.
Yeah, so, okay.
it's my understanding, and I don't know, John, if you're familiar, that's what I've been told, that MEDC would allow us to move money from phase 6 to phase 5.
I'm talking to Zebro Path.
Yeah, Zebro.
I believe that's the case.
Right, I think
Great.
that has been verified by.
And Roy, when phase 5 is completed, then it will connect to the B2B.
Mhm. That's the plan.
Yeah,
That would be great.
it'd be great to get that done. Yeah,
So that's why I think it became a larger priority, just to,
Sure. sure.
Do we have to make a proposal to?
Yeah, there is a resolution. Let me just try to find that. In the email that Anna sent, or I sent it yesterday. Did you guys get that proposed resolution for Zebro Pathway?
You mean the MEDC grants one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that?
I think so.
This, right, this is what you're talking, this one?
Yeah, but it says proposed motion that upon recommendation of the Scio P3 committee,
Yeah.
we're recommending that Scio Board of Trustees hereby approves resolution that will allow Z-Road Pathway MEDC grant for phase 5 and phase 6 be used in either phase based on financial need of each phase of Z-Road Pathway project. So it's a proposed motion. Someone like that.
Oh, I'll
Move that.
move.
And
move to-
I'll support.
Yeah.
Support. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Still getting.
All right, moving on to Z-Road map, which is sort of related. Z-Road map, 426, actually, we sort of tied those all together. So I think that's for information. Let's skip the play space subcommittee real quick and just move on to connecting communities, because that's all related to Zebra. So also during this process, we've applied for Zebra Pathway phases 1 and phases 3 has applied for and received connecting community grants, which are grants from county parks. There's a countywide millage to vote for $500,000 goes for roads and 20% goes for trails and parks. And that's what the border trail portion of it anyways. But a portion of $500,000 a year is set aside for connecting communities grants, which is basically grants for townships and cities to connect things to the border, connect schools to neighborhoods. So of the 20 townships, probably 10 to 12 townships have applied for money. A lot of the trails you see in Pittsfield Township have connecting communities money projects in Ypsilanti Township, cities, Northfield Township. A lot of those are funded with connecting communities. Like I said, 2 phases of the Z Road, phase 1, I think in phase 3 had 200,000 or 300,000 each. So every 3 years you can apply. So it's been, I think it was 2018, was the last grant we received, connecting communities. So that's what Anna put together, the connecting communities grant. They'll go to county parks for review. We're requesting $300,000 that we put towards the department with MED's money from our millage to hopefully we could build the bridge and build phase 5 as he grows. So that's was taken to township board last meeting. So there's no opportunity for us to support it because we had to get it in by August 31st. And since we didn't have a meeting in August, the township board did approve it. So that was just a request to ask for, which I put in there, $300,000 from the county to put towards phase 5.
But they also committed to use local money too.
Right.
To make the application
Yeah.
more credible to like, hey, these guys have skin in the game because they've got several $100,000.
Right. It is about a $2.5 to $3 million project to finish the project. So we're requesting $300,000. Money is about a little less than 2 million. So we're going to be putting in some of the millage money we've collected. All those get sorted out once, because right now we have plans that we consider 30% plans. As you get more finalized, we'll have more ideas that closer to 2 million, closer to 3 million. So that this is just, and then once you get the money, I think you got like 4 or 5 years to spend it. So, if we get it, it's not like we have to spend it next year. Because realistically, that project is probably a 2025 project. Hopefully get everything lined up in 24. You got a railroad, you got a river to cross, you got private property. It's gonna probably take a fair amount of time to pull those all together. Hopefully that can happen in 24 with work getting done in 25. So that's the connecting communities portion. So let's move back to place-based subcommittee. I know I'll turn it over to Rita.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So, there is, an Eagle Scout that would like to do a project for the township. And he would like for it to be sort of a nature place-based kind of thing. So, we talked about doing it at Marshall Park as one of the sort of offshoots by the trail. And probably close to, I don't know, I don't think anyone here, maybe Patrick, where we talked about putting the park in, sort of just as you go through the gate before you come to the flyers. So we kind of talked about using sort of that area. Maybe not exactly where we were, but.
Did you say Marshall Park?
Yeah, isn't it right out here?
Township.
Yeah, that's where we.
Yes, Township Park, Township Park,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
not
Township
Marshall,
Park.
Township Park.
yeah,
Visual is right back here.
yeah, right.
Right, I just misspelled it. So, anyway, now, because he's an Eagle Scout, he could do fundraising and raise money to get the materials that he needs, or we can supply some of the materials, or we can help fund the project. And he would like to get it started like soon, this fall. And so, he has until he's like 18 or something to get it done because he's an Eagle Scout.
How old is he?
Yeah, I think I think that's why he wants to do it
Oh,
this
okay.
way.
They have to complete the requirements before 18.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I think that's what I
Absolutely.
understand. So, anyway, what Anna and I, or Roy talked about is forming sort of a subcommittee. And, I would be on that committee and so would, Alan, if Alan is interested. I think it'd be a great use of his,
Alan being the Eagle Scout, or is the
No,
Alan the
Alan
gentleman that
Scio.
was, oh, okay, gotcha.
talk to us.
Yeah.
Alan is just so excited to do something, he knows he's getting old and it's like, come on, you
Yeah.
guys, let's do something. And so this is a perfect time to try to use his energy. So anyway, so we're just thinking about forming a subcommittee, and I don't know how we want to do that, if we want to just sort of do it now. We can't have everybody on the subcommittee, of course, but if anyone's interested. And it would be probably, I will get more information from Anna, but meeting with the Eagle Scout and Alan and coming up with
I think we're looking at what, 2 to 3 more people.
Yeah.
I would be interested, but I'm gonna be out of the country for 3 weeks coming up, so if it's given the short time span, I would love to, but I don't know if I can really be there for the next 3 weeks, so. I mean, I don't know what
Yeah, I
your
don't know
real
when
time
we'll
frame
start.
is, but.
Well, I don't think we're gonna be starting.
Yeah, I don't think we'll
soon
start.
either.
Well, all right, but it
We'll
sounded
definitely wait
urgent,
for
so,
Anna to
yeah.
get back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
And you don't have to say, I mean, if you think, if you want interested, let Rita know now. If not, think about it and let, Anna or Rita know, next week or so.
yeah.
Something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would involve. I don't know what kind of time commitment it's going to be. But it would mostly be with just connecting and bringing Alan to the table too. To sort of.
It sort of coincide, we're talking about, there's a walking path out there now, making that a crushed limestone path. So it would be, and then these little play structures would be tied to that. And we could do more than one location. They could be multiple, it's one here, because it is a loop around. So you could have one here, one here, one here. And that would be natural versus, those, steel and plastic play structures you see in the city of Ann Arbor. These are more natural, using Eagle Scout, working with Professor, trying to pull that all together. And other, is there natural wood available, or there's products available? He can raise some money, but obviously we do have money set up for the budget to do improvements at this township park too, so we could assist him. So I think, so it could be, a win for him and a win for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking to do something there anyways. And we have a professor that could give us some insights, like, oh, this could work. So I think, the stars are sort of aligning. So if someone, people are interested, I mean, probably if no one's interested, probably Rita and Anna and the professor and the Scott will keep moving this forward. I mean, it's gonna happen, I'm guessing. Eagle Scout's, really interested in doing this. I'm not sure how old he is, hopefully he's not
Yeah,
17 and a half.
17 and 3/4.
Hopefully he's done better plan, because it's still gonna take time, it just doesn't happen like that, so hopefully, I see, hopefully 12 months from now, it's done.
I think he's gonna really try to do it faster than that, so we'll see.
I know, but you just know how things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested, depending on how many people you want in your group, 'cause
Yeah.
a larger group is unwieldy, but certainly I'm interested in helping if you can use.
And then would Alan be the designer of the?
Yeah, that's a great
Well,
addition.
I don't know, how much we want to take from the kid. I think, like, I don't think Alan should dictate what his project is going to, look like. Personally, I don't know how an Eagle Scout project goes, but I think that Alan, would have some nice input and ideas to share. And then I really think it's the Eagle Scout will hopefully be able to come up with the design.
I wonder though if Alan can't, he probably knows how to talk to people, right? And he can sort of have a discussion that would raise some ideas that the scout could choose from, because his expertise is extensive.
Right, that's what I mean, as far as access, I mean, because you gotta think through that, you can't just, it's like, I mean, it's like if someone that's 16, he goes, hey, I have an idea, but sort of like, okay, let's run it by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
person that's done this before.
Right.
It's like, that's probably not a good idea.
It's
But
like safety.
we can make
Yeah.
that, make it, modify it to make what so I think,
Sure.
take his vision and modify it to something that could be built and will be safe for kids to play on.
I never made it to Eagle Scout, but my understanding is that one of the purposes is for the scout to show some leadership and organization, and not just to do something themselves, saying, hey, look what I did, I cut somebody's lawn or whatever. Rather, it's to organize some people and materials and ideas. And so I don't think the Eagle Scout would be, I don't think his project will be degraded or not approved just because he has a professor who comes in and
Right.
helps with the design.
No,
think
I
that's
don't
part of
think
it for him to bring it all together and make it happen.
Probably has something that he's been thinking about anyway. If he came to, the township and asked us, can we do this? Then I'm sure he has maybe something in mind. But I think sharing the idea and
Yeah.
A typical project might be like building a bridge in a park and those picnic tables, things like that, and bringing together some of the boys and materials and getting it to happen and raising funds, the Eagle Scouts sometimes come to Rotary and ask for some funds. I think we never say no.
Yeah, so.
Rita, didn't you say there's a parks similar to this where were you mentioning there's a park that you saw?
oh, there's several parks that I've gone to that have these nature escape play areas. And one of them is at Dahlem. And then there's a couple of more that are, I went to look for the one that you told me about, but I missed it, the one at Lower Huron.
Where's Dahlem?
Well, that's not.
It's not a nature place,
No,
but I
that's
don't
not
think.
nature, that's a superstructure.
Yeah, right.
It's plastic.
But the one at Dahlem and at the Eddy Center, they have some
Okay,
that
makes
I've
sense.
been to with my grandson, and it's really fabulous, and I've been there with classes, teaching and things, but it's just one of the things we let the kids do.
What is Dahlem?
Dahlem Nature Center is in Jackson.
Oh, Jackson.
It's
Is there one close that's possible to look at?
Yeah.
Getty's, which is in Sylvan Township. Up Pierce Road, out
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, the Eddy Center, it's
Recreation.
a geology center. It's a Chelsea address, but it's really not that far away. It's Pierce Road exit, and it's on Bush Road. And that one is, that's a really new trail that they did, and it's quite long, and I think it's quite long, but it has different breakout areas with things that are offered, and they're very simple, but kids just love it, So those are the kinds of things that I'm excited about. I just love to watch how they move on them.
Yeah.
So it can be like a circle as big as this of just stumps that are a little bit different heights. And you just watch these, little kids just run around on the stumps. I'm like, but it's quite fun. And then, whatever. Don't get me started. I'll stop talking now.
No.
Okay.
So no, it sounds like a great opportunity for us and the Eagle Scout and bringing Professor Allen all together.
Mhm.
And we have potentially a location right here, so it seems like it's a huge opportunity.
Anna also has a geology professor that wants to do a project offered up with her class. And so that will be rocks, that'll be sort of, we have a way to identify them and things like that, but that's pretty exciting. That's something we probably shouldn't even talk about yet, but anyway.
Yeah,
Possibly.
actually, that's another thing, I mean, sometimes you just put some big rocks out there, and kids just love hunting big rocks.
Well, we have some big rocks, and the idea was to have them move to a place and have them, again, at the Eddy Center, they have a whole setup like that. If you haven't been there, it's really close to the building, and it has different kind of rocks in one area. So, and then another area with a plaque that identifies the rock. It's fabulous. So, and simple, super simple.
All right, well, go check it out.
I'll go anytime. Anybody wants to go, I'll meet you there.
Items on the agenda, did I miss anything?
Something else? No.
So I guess, for item I, which is public comment, end of our meeting. So obviously no one's here, but
I see Pam and Rob who are here, but I don't see hands raised yet.
Oh, and can I just say this out loud, because they'll probably be wondering about it, is our July minutes, I think it was July, because we didn't meet in August. And I think the July minutes were sent to Anna, and so they're in her email.
The day after, yeah, I was sent them
Yeah.
within 24 hours, so.
And so, but I don't know that I saw them, I looked back, I couldn't find an email where she sent them. Did you see them, Roy? Do you
No.
remember? Okay, so we'll just catch up next time.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
apologize, this is just like,
Yeah,
with Anna being gone, it's a little hard.
right, with the meeting, August meeting being canceled, then our, the Abby gone, this one to minutes, yeah, from the July meeting, that's what we did. We have on this agenda, so the plan would be to bring them both to the October meeting.
yeah, and I don't think, I can't just email them out. I think everybody without some sort of approval, I don't know if that is against the open meetings act. Like, I don't think I'm supposed to communicate with everybody, right,
Right,
at once, so I've gotta,
right, so you send them to Anna.
yeah.
And that's what we have to figure out, like, does Anna just go ahead and send them out, or do we, one of us need to do it? And I think because there's so many different actors that it could happen.
I think it's just because we didn't have that August meeting, so she was, she wasn't prompted to, right?
So we will catch up, we promise.
So there's a hand raised if you're looking at me. I see Rob and I'll click on invite or, do it, Rob?
Thank you, John. For the Eagle Scout project, you'll have, one aspect of that will have to be worked out is the Ann Arbor Flyers have access to that area behind Township Hall, and have had for 40 or 50 years. I actually flew planes over there with my dad in the 70s. In order to make a play space back there, you will have to work that out with the Ann Arbor Flyers. Also, I'm an Eagle Scout, and you're exactly right. The project management aspect of the Eagle Scout project is a critical part of that, and bringing all the pieces together to make it happen, not just doing the work yourself. And then about the bridge, the engineering group, OHM, went to the state, and the state engineers told OHM that the road bed is only 6 inches thick where the barrier would need to go. And the barrier would actually have to, the supports for the barrier would have to penetrate the road bed, and there's no structure underneath it to that would give it enough strength to withstand an impact. Therefore, nothing can be done with the bridge until they replace it, or maybe they widen Zebra Road again, who knows? But for the next 30-ish years or so, it's very likely that nothing will be able to be done with that in terms of a physical barrier along the bridge for the sidewalk. Thank you.
Rob, the other person in the house remotely is Pam Boyd, if she wants to speak or not.
No, thank you. I enjoyed listening though. Thank you.
All right. Christy Aikens, the host, she's not here. That's me. And that concludes, oh, wait a minute. There's someone in the waiting room, Will Hathaway. Reluctantly, I'm allowing him in. Hey, Will, you're in the house. My apology for not seeing you. So just now, we're at public comment number 2. If you want to speak.
Guess that's a no.
All right.
So I guess we'll close public comment, second session.
Yeah, that's it. I don't see anyone else. Thanks.
So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Password for